Every Wednesday.
First
Is
Wednesday.
it? Yeah.
I went to the farmer's market last night too, so I can weigh 300 pounds.
That's what birthdays are for.
That's right.
So I'm just gonna.
Okay. Anybody want chocolate? I don't want one.
John, would
Okay,
you
well,
like
just
a
keep passing.
chocolate vanilla?
Sure, anything.
Okay. Do you have a preference, Liz?
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
You don't want.
I don't want one. Those guys.
Napkin?
You guys want cupcakes?
Hey, that's
Yeah.
good thinking.
Thank you. No, thank you.
I'm gonna have
Where do you want
just
chocolate
finished
or?
my supper, so this is dessert. Anybody?
Sure, anybody can have one.
Here's your napkin.
Do you want one? No. Thank you.
But happy birthday, Lynn.
Well, thank you.
See what happens when you tell me things like that?
Turning 31 or 32?
Yeah. It's 3/4 of a century. That's the way it is. What?
Ready whenever you are.
Okay. I was just checking the clock. I won't feed my face. Call the meeting to order. We'll do roll call.
Lou Pitek?
Karen Suckerman?
Dana Gayfeller. Liz Cyberling.
John Fuller.
Okay. So this is my first one officially doing the whole thing. I did go back and watch some old ones.
Oh, boy.
But please tell me what I should be doing if I'm not. So the first item on the agenda is the approval of the agenda.
So move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Is that all I need to do there?
Correct.
Okay, good. Next item is the approval of the May 10th, 2022 meeting minutes. They are printed here on the back if anybody has not seen them. It was a real short meeting.
Mm-hmm. Nice one. So move.
Second. All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Moving right along, our first sign permit request of the evening is for 109 North Downey Street, which is the Element Salon.
And I'll try to. Typically, Dana, if it's like something controversial, I'll remind them that they have like 3 minutes to speak. You probably won't ever run into that, but and sometimes I'll give just a brief introduction, and then if they're here, then they would kind of make their argument.
Okay.
And feel free to jump into Jesse. I got Element Salons. It's a decal, 35 by 35. I know the color was like blue and gold, not anything super blue or super gold, but it's not lighted, and it's window decal, so
What is
it won't
that?
be. That's for the next
Ryerson.
one.
Yeah.
That's the flowers.
And the reason why I don't have a super professional one from Element Salon, who they were working with in Iowa City, wouldn't even do a drawing for them until they got your approval. So that's, yeah.
Seems a little
That
backwards.
kind
It does indeed.
defeats the purpose, I would say, but it's not the first time it's been. So it's gold and blue?
Yes.
she submit a picture of the logo at least, or is there no?
She had an old logo. She sent it to me. She didn't send it to me, but she showed it to me on my phone, and it was
Tasteful.
yes, wasn't out there, I guess. So it was, I don't know, a lighter gold and a lighter navy blue. So it's still a darker blue, but it wasn't like, it's not computer sharp blue or anything like that. So,
Well, I have not to put you on the spot,
Yep.
but
Yep.
could you remind us of the requirements of for the signs in the historic district? I had them set aside someplace. I was gonna bring them.
I was
I
gonna
ran out of time.
ask all of you guys that question, how much you knew. And we'll talk a little bit more about ordinances later. I can pull up real quick. I know the biggest thing is when it's lighted or if it's too big, too tall, sticking out too far. Those have always been priority one.
And it's determined by the distance across the building.
The size of the building, yes,
Yeah,
the
size.
face of the building.
So generally when it's a window, sticker, decal, there's less measurements to go by.
But it's still, if you want to, you can put it within a square.
Correct.
Or rectangle or whatever. When I did it in the beginning, it was all hand lettered. But no one does that anymore.
So I'll make a note of that and I'll send it out too, so you guys can take a look at it.
From my memory, though, these both cases fit the requirements fine. So no
Yeah.
particular problems there. And
Are
the
they-
iris and ivy one looks very pleasant in terms of.
Yeah, it's
And,
very pretty.
Are they planning on doing anything like they've done here, adding anything that one there?
Not my understanding. The only thing they've asked for is just the 36 by 36.
So if we might, I'll make a motion to approve the iris and ivy one as submitted to us. No
I'll
changes.
second it.
We're going backwards.
Well, I know we are, but I think the other one requires more discussion.
Okay.
Did anybody want to see the color pictures?
Color says it.
And this one has like the measurements drawn out on it too.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that makes a big difference.
Yeah. A little easier to, see
Well,
what you're
to
getting.
imagine,
Yeah.
what it is.
That's beautiful. I think that
Yeah.
looks
Yeah.
really nice.
One thing I always say is, can you read it from a distance?
Yeah.
And it doesn't seem to register with anybody that puts up signs because, like that iris and ivy could be, they're fairly easy style of lettering, but they could be thicker or something like that.
Yeah.
But it's their choice.
Right. So, and that's on a white background behind the lettering, correct? So that may make it a little easier,
Yeah.
but yeah, the lettering's real thin. Yeah. But it's also 60 inches across.
Yeah, so it's fairly.
Yeah, so it's big.
Did you want to see this, John, in color?
No, that's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay.
It's very nice.
Biggest thing on what you're asking for, John. Generally, it's no closer than 6 inches of the edge of the window. Can't pose any danger to life. No illumination. Then there's stuff on projecting signs, but that's not what this does.
Right.
Freestanding signs, which is not this. Number and location of signs, and there's only one. Then there's information about temporary signs.
And you can have a projecting sign as well as on the surface.
Yeah, John and Lou.
But that's the second.
Yeah, the second.
Yeah.
All the rest are just checklist. Unless you want to start requiring architectural reviews.
Well,
Probably not. on
I am
site.
not one.
I think it'd be nice if we could even have a rough sketch. We don't ever,
Well, we have far more of a rough sketch in this particular case, that's why I wanted to get this one out of the way essentially.
yeah, which one?
This one, we've got this one.
Iris and Ivy,
For
Ivy.
the elements, this is for elements.
Oh, that's for elements?
Yeah.
Or- I didn't see that.
It's on the back of one
Yeah,
of
it's
those
on the-
sheets.
Oh, okay.
So it's, yeah, it's very rough, but,
Yeah,
I mean, I guess my thought on it is
so
how,
it's a circle, in other words.
yeah, I feel like it's probably, maybe from her drawing, like, maybe some overlapping
Yeah.
circles,
Mhm.
so, and gold isn't gonna be anything too, I mean, it's not like she's doing fluorescent green or something.
I don't see a problem. Don, did you want to bring up anything?
Well, it's certainly not as complete an application as
We've
one
had
would.
some
hope
like
for.
this in the past.
Yeah, we have.
Where it's just a rough sketch. But
Mhm.
now it seems like people are going to a sign person and having them help design it. I would think the sign person could come up with something, you know,
Yeah.
pretty basic, but doesn't say who they're going to.
That's helpful that I can pass along to them as they apply too. This is the first time I've seen this process through, so. I find it very surprising that they weren't able to get
Yeah, just
just
something.
the logo design
Right.
here.
Well,
Yeah.
it could even be drawing like this.
Yes, I'm sure
but
they have a
a
digital
little
file,
more,
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah. Just maybe not the exact colors as it would be on the decal, but something close.
Yeah.
Are you essentially reviewing it for any of the things that are outlined as prohibited signs in the ordinance?
Yeah,
I think that, I guess John's point, I think what he's asking for is in the future, he would like something more formal.
I wouldn't mind it if the city were to give out the requirements. And, you know, rather than just saying they're in
we
the
have done that
code.
in the past.
Well,
When they come in and get their sign permit, we gave them a copy of ordinances.
I did give that to them.
oh, you did?
Yes.
Okay.
They've received all that.
You know, what's really nice to see is something like this that indicates where it's going to go in relationship to the storefront.
Yeah, well, it says the sign will be on the
I know,
left
I know.
front window, center, closest to the main front door.
Which is a little bit hard to visualize for me.
Is on, this is also on, oh wait, yeah, it's on Downey, it's, so the old,
And they're both
printing
right
store is
next to each
gonna be the
other.
flower
Yeah.
shop, and then right
Yeah.
next door to them, in between them and White Pumpkin is where this
Oh,
will be.
okay.
The two new spaces they've
Yeah.
been working on,
Yeah.
on the Union
Oh,
Block.
okay. Oh, great.
And I see that that nail shop's gonna be down there in the gray building. Are they gonna apply for a?
They're technically not in this, that building's not in the historic district. She inquired and was told she doesn't need to apply.
Correct, and I confirm that, it's technically that building's not in the district.
Alright, anything else? Anybody comments on the elements, or are you ready to?
I'm ready, yes.
Okay, move to action?
so move.
Aye.
Second?
Seconded, I'll second.
Okay.
Okay, we
All in
already
favor?
did that with the other.
Sorry, all in favor?
Aye.
I'm
I'm gonna look to you a lot, Lou, till
Well,
I get the hang of it.
This is rather informal anyway.
Right, yeah. Okay, so that's both of our sign permit requests for tonight, and then up for discussion, we have, the administrative review of the sign permits, which Adam and I have talked about briefly.
So I talked briefly with Dana in terms of allowing either myself or me and her together when there's something, say, like as clear as Iris and Ivy, where it's clear, it meets our standards, everything's there. For them to wait, there are businesses that have to wait 2, 4, 8 weeks, depending on how long it takes for us to get together. And if we're only meeting quarterly, and if there's vacations, it would be nice if it's a window decal and it's not controversial for, say, Dana and I to get administrative authority to approve those. And if we don't agree, then we would ask for the board's
You could
opinion.
always email us
Yeah.
pictures.
I can't technically do that by state law.
Oh, okay.
Cannot vote via email.
Well, I mean,
Two of you,
Can-
two of you.
That's still not a full board decision.
But can you just like text us or email us and we can come in and look? As it fits our schedule and then. sign
You
off?
could, but you still would have to have a formal
Oh.
meeting. Because technically, we do not have the approval or the authority to approve any sign until this board meets. And 3 of you say yes.
I think in a lot of cases, if you call a meeting, if you've got 3 people, you can vote on it.
Correct. Correct.
You just need the majority.
Correct.
But you can change the rule to where just you two can make that decision?
You guys would have to recommend an approval to do that, and then I'd have to ask council
Oh, okay.
in the final end. And that's going to be up to your guys' opinion, and I can only speak on behalf of the 2 or 3 that I just had. But I had 3 fairly quickly, and then there's another one coming, and so I could get a formal request tomorrow, and we're meeting again. Assuming everyone's here, we'd have to meet again in
Next week.
Next
a week or, yeah. I can't turn around a meeting. I have X amount of hours. I've got to inform the public before we can even hold a meeting. So,
They have to know 2 days ahead.
Yeah, I
as
think
long as
this,
it's, yeah.
I think this sounds good.
Okay.
What do we have to say?
I will draft something. I will draft something in language. I just didn't want to start that process
Oh, okay.
until I knew there was backing because
Yeah.
I don't want to do 4 hours of work and then be told it's not going to happen. So, so we'll at least draft, and if we got to tweak it next meeting, so be it, and council will need to review as well.
So meanwhile, we should plan on another meeting next week.
Not until I have something formally,
Right.
so,
I would say thank you for that. Am I allowed to talk in these meetings?
yes, you are.
It's like council or,
These are.
You do have to be up at the
it
podium
seems
though.
a little- yeah. I don't like the podium. That will really be appreciated by our business owners. I think we have learned, especially in the last few months, we have a lot of new businesses, and a lot of times they don't get access into their spaces until we light a fire under the property owners' rears, that we have events coming up, and then they are in a really big crunch to get everything ready and to get their storefronts looking ready for the public for big events, and this process can really hold them up. So that will be helpful.
And I'm not asking for when it's a sign or something exterior. The window decals today,
Are
if they make an error, or
Yeah, they can fix
Dana
it.
and I make an error, it's $100, you know, or whatever, 150. It's,
What we've had in the past is they get the sign, they put it up, and then they apply for the
Yeah.
permit.
Right, so we're already ahead of
Yeah,
Yeah.
they know the process. We've been
As long as,
reiterating the rules.
as long
are
as
there
they
for a
have
reason.
a form and the regulations, you know, that's most important.
They are very buried on the website. It would be helpful if business owners could find them on their own without me having to send them through 621 pages of ordinances. That's what I currently do.
I will copy you in and I'll at least copy it. That's
Well,
the one thing we struggle as a city is we cover everything and there's so much information. It's hard to highlight the right piece of thing that somebody needs. Because everybody needs everything at one point in time.
I mean, it works. We've got it down now, so. Just took a little while.
Before we leave signs, did Michael Sexton get a?
Yes,
approval?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
that was,
Saw
it
that
was us
this week.
three, short meeting.
That was our 3-minute meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I wasn't here,
literally.
so, okay.
Okay, all good there?
Yep.
Anything else? Okay, moving on to the draft preservation district ordinances for the Travelers Rest.
So here comes the fun part. So, I'm not sure when this transition took part. If it was either when we recodified a few months ago. I don't know if it's when we did our CLG ordinance or when we tried the past one. But our current ordinance does not have any historic preservation districts in it at all. And so we're going to have to redo everything. So the process for starting a designated district is building owners need to be notified. I think properties within 250 feet need to be notified. Then there needs to be public hearings. That needs to go in the paper. It's not a normal 48-hour. So we have some legwork ahead. So technically our sign stuff we're doing right now, we don't even have the authority to do. So
Are we
just-
talking about other districts
This is interesting.
other than the downtown, or we gotta designate that again?
we have to redesignate it because in the code it's not even
Well,
even
got left
mentioned.
out.
So so I wish I had a draft for Travelers Rest, but it's gonna have to be a new ordinance entirely, one that works with CLG in the state. Plus you gotta add in our unique things we do, like signs. And you're gonna have to add our 2 districts that we have, the downtown preservation. Plus you're talking adding Travelers Rest as a new district. So we are,
And some of these, we have buildings within the district that aren't, some of them have met the 50-year time, but in the past, some of them have been just, what's the term? A building that is, can't be put on the register, but it's in the district. What's the term for that?
Just what you said, Lou.
I think your description's just fine.
Yeah.
I think that's the difference between a historic district and preservation.
Adjacent,
Yep.
that's the word I was
Yep.
trying to come up with, that it's an adjacent building in the district.
Well, let me ask you, it's unfortunate, but this happened, obviously, it gives a lot of extra work. But would this be a good opportunity to think about expanding the historic district?
That is a question for you guys to take up, so, and give me direction on.
Which way would it go? I mean,
Town hall,
Definitely town
to
hall.
the town hall, and that's about it.
Either
Friends
that
Church,
direction, just with
Friends Church.
Yeah.
the street district.
All right. Yeah, we could go up Downey Street here, these houses here, maybe.
Lutheran Church.
Yeah, that's old enough now, isn't it?
Okay.
Well, it only has to be 50 years old,
now.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, it's not very old.
but, you know, like the grooming station building was built right after the war, so
Yeah.
that is.
Certainly old enough.
Yeah.
You know, what we probably should do is have kind of a work session and have a map of the city and look at the buildings and see what would make the most sense. But the historic district really has seemed too small to me for a while, especially given some of the other older and probably pretty important buildings nearby. Town Hall is certainly one of those. Friends Church right over there is one of those.
But if
There's
it's,
probably a few more.
if it's where people live,
Yes.
isn't that, can that be in the same district, or is that like a?
I don't see why it couldn't be in an expanded historic district. Doesn't have to be on the historic register.
Yeah.
Well, if we're going to give any guidance, seems to me that would be a useful thing to,
And now that I took a back seat and can kind of think it through, my worry, I guess, not that I disagree, but if we want to talk about the city being liable for something, if we don't approve a sign and we don't have this ordinance in place, we are probably liable. So I think it's probably in the best interest to get something done. I'm not saying, we're talking about goals, so I'm not saying we can't throw that in as a new goal, but if we're talking mapping and more discussions and trying to add people, I think that's going to add time. And in my opinion, I think we know what we've done, so let's preserve what we've done.
Right.
Because technically, if you guys said no to one of these signs, they probably could say you don't have the authority to do it, and we would be wrong. So I think it's probably prudent to just get something done.
How many buildings are actually on the register now?
14.
14? And has the city talked about doing anything with the town hall or not really?
Discussions, yes.
Because I know, who was the fellow that moved to Arkansas?
Lane.
Lane Shield. He had started something already on it, because he even had information when they had a fire in there and things like that.
Discussions, yes. Guidance, mixed. We have talked about it. We've talked about potentially considering it for updates soon. The one thing we run into is putting it on the registry, and we start doing, there's been some HVAC issues, and we start weatherizing it. We could very well be pigeonholing us. So I think the city council probably would prefer let's fix some of the energy efficiency issues first. In terms of expanding the district, that's going to vary by council member to council member, but I don't think every single council member will want to expand the district or make town hall on the registry. I know there's one that's against it, so I don't know how all of them feel.
Well, it can be in the district, not on the historic.
yeah, not on the register.
They don't have to put it.
Correct, but since it's in our district, we have all these guidelines we have to follow. So we would have to follow our historical guidelines and our design guidelines.
So how do we start the process of getting the ordinance drafted?
What I will do is I'm about halfway through. I will at least send you a draft so you have plenty of time to review when it's done, but we would probably want a reading and a passing next quarterly meeting, which we got to make sure our lawyer reads through it. We got to make sure it gets in the paper. And you don't want me to do an ordinance as fast as possible, because that's when errors happen, so,
So our next quarterly meeting would be
September.
September.
Well, you know, it is a long process and so forth to expand the historic district. But just think of the benefits of that in terms of economic development and bringing in tourists and the like. How many WPA buildings are there around here? Not very many. And that's certainly an attraction to some people. And being able to point that out, I think, is worthwhile. You know, the Friends Church here is certainly something that could be exploited, I guess you could say, in terms of those with historic interest and interest in things that have been around for quite a long time. I mean, so there are some real opportunities here, I think, even though it may be a process that not everyone would agree with and would take a long time. So.
Now, who's requesting that? Are they requesting the travelers rest put on, apply for a historic building?
So there's those discussions going on, which is further down the road, but there's possible donations to help that individual. But the one thing that I'll tell you is the only way to preserve it right now is for the city to do it. Being on the National Registry doesn't
No, you
mean anything. So, but yes, there's talks about possible donations. Ideally, in the long run, if it's on the registry, and we have a park service just next by, the mayor and I will have to play a little bit of lobbying because it does take an act of Congress. But the hopes would be 5 years after it's on the registry, the Park Service would take it over and start preserving it,
can.
if that owner chooses to give it to the Park Service.
And I was told it was moved off of the original site. It went down the hill, and it was up the hill somewhere.
Correct. And so I think the site where the underground storage is outside of city limits. And yeah, that's part of a conversation I need to have with that person. So, but yes, I think that's accurate that it was moved 200 feet or something like that. I think that's accurate. There's still, I think, the trap door in that home, but not the actual where the slaves would have
Is
hit.
it like from the upper floor down? I've never been in there, so
Yeah, I haven't either, but that's my understanding.
It's privately owned right now, like somebody lives there.
yeah, the daughter inherited from,
Okay.
the parents passed away now.
I didn't know that it moved, that's fascinating.
Yeah. I don't know why it was moved, but
Yeah, 200 feet especially.
Yeah.
To get into the city limits.
Maybe. Yeah. Maybe they were just outside the cutoff for city sewer or something.
well, it's a lot flatter where it is now.
Yeah.
So what I'll do is I'll have a draft ordinance, and if you guys approve, then we can start the ordinance process. And it does need to go to planning and zoning to districts like that. So you don't have to pass an official one. It's technically it's council. You would just give, advisory approval, and then it'd go to planning and zoning for advisory approval. And then that's, when it goes to council is when all the public hearings start clicking. So What else? Historic preservation goals. I wanted to give these to you as Dana and I just kind of talked in general. But I kind of want your feedback as I'm thinking, because realistically, we won't get all these done. But if there's a top 3 or 4 to do in the next 3 or 4 years, I'd like your feedback so that way I know.
Well, John, what was that we were working on here?
Well, these all come from the Historic Preservation Plan that was
Yeah.
produced in 2017.
Yeah. So didn't we have some that we were more interested in following?
Well, we certainly talked about it. We didn't follow through with anything. That's been a disappointment. But I think Adam's right. If we picked out one thing to try and pursue, or 2 things to try and pursue, it wouldn't be quite so overwhelming. And in addition to figuring out what to pursue, the question is someone going to spearhead it? Are we going to, as a group, push through these objectives? We need to have essentially an action plan for whatever it is that we decide is most important,
Now,
or most doable, for that matter. Sometimes.
now, where is that that we worked on? Is there?
The plan, it's on the city webpage. And here are the goals and objectives, or actions.
So would one of the first things to become CLG certified?
That's certainly an important goal.
Well, aren't
Ran
we
into
pretty close
obstacles.
to that, John? Aren't we pretty close?
I felt we were close, but,
It was the wordage that they were more interested in. The
right. And they didn't like our ordinance, for that matter, so that's something that could be corrected.
They wanted, I think, us to do research all the way up to 50-year properties, and I think we did 75 or 100. And so, because that's their standard. And now that more time has passed, now there's more properties that are in
Right.
that 50-year time. So,
Most of them downtown fit into that.
but when you're talking 50 years of 1,100 properties, how many of them are 50 years or older? It's a
You mean
lot.
all in the town?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you have to
It's for the
inventory.
city of West Branch. So.
So, and I know Karen agreed to help out with that. So, and I told her in June, July we'd start sitting down. So,
I agree, that should probably be one of the first things if we're picking 1 or 2. To get that put into place, because then that opens up a lot
Yeah.
of other things for us then
Well,
too.
you get more assistance that way,
Yeah.
and you can apply for more grants theoretically.
The CDG design committee would be willing to help with that too. That falls into our goals too.
Great. Anything else on the list? Anybody has particular interest in it? Or do we think the CLG is gonna take up quite a bit of time? Maybe we should start with that and
I think that's probably a good idea. Get it
not let's
done.
focus on it again and,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, some of these kind of come after.
Yeah.
Yeah, like once we do the CLG, then I think it would be great to have somebody trained in grant writing, because that'll open up so many more grant opportunities then too,
And we do have people that are aware of grant writing and
I read a lot of grants, but I've never wrote any.
well, Jesse's done, how many have you done?
Trained in that.
Yeah.
Yeah, lots.
I didn't know that. Something we were trained for. Makes sense though.
Yeah.
Persuasive
yeah.
writing.
Adam
Yeah.
took a class.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. There's our city staff person and our community member. Done.
Two birds, one stone.
Well, one of the things we were talking about is really goal number 8. So that might be an interesting one to follow up on. Yeah, not too difficult to envision being able to do it.
Yeah,
No, it sounds like most of that research would be done.
right. Well, and like you said, I think that could be a, just a meeting
Yes,
set aside just to discuss that and what properties, how far out we'd wanna go with it and all that, so. Something fairly easy, maybe?
of course, another aspect, and we've got Mayor here, as well as Adam, in the CLG requirements was to dedicate staff time to exactly that, historic preservation. And that seemed to be a stumbling block.
How much time did they require? I feel like it was quite a bit, right?
I forget if it was 10 hours a week or something like that, but,
Yeah, 25%.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
we'll just
Just to get CLG status?
Yes,
or
right.
after?
No, to obtain it.
That's a lot.
Which makes you wonder about why so many hundred other Iowa communities have been able to do it.
Maybe we should ask him.
Right?
25% sounds right, but
What other communities have CLG status or?
Most of the communities in Iowa.
Oh,
there's about 90 communities.
interesting.
Obviously, all your bigger cities do it, but I want to say Lisbon is too. That's probably the closest
I think
smaller
there,
community.
I think there's quite a few smaller communities that haven't.
I will ask the other Main Street directors, their communities are, they have CLG status, is that the right term?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, because I wonder if there would be an opportunity for an overlap in staff dedication, because we are required to have 25 hours of dedicated staff time to our historic Main Street district. So historic preservation is in the work I do, but not necessarily 25% of my 25 hours. So it'd be interesting to consider
Yes,
if some of
well-
the other communities have that as an overlapping staff person.
So you're saying you might wanna do it?
There's a lot I want to do here.
Right, I
He
know.
needs to spend more hours.
Yeah.
Right.
I think she's saying though that part of her job may count.
Yeah.
Oh.
Ready.
My current
That's what
hours
she's saying.
Yes.
towards that.
Yeah.
I see.
Yeah,
Okay,
that's what I'm saying.
that would be great.
And yeah, well, I'll be as brief as this, but are they gonna really audit how many hours I'm working? So there's gonna be times where I spend a lot on historic preservation, and there's gonna be times where I spend none. So I think the biggest thing is have a contact person and have somebody that's accountable. But yeah,
They never have volunteers or anything like that?
I think they want a staff person because
Continuity and all that.
generally understand procedures and rules and generally stay longer versus commission members kind of come and go. And, you don't do it full time, so you don't.
Right.
Okay.
The second goal has an action 2, which is to partner with the Hoover Museum and the National Park Service
Yeah.
and so forth for educational events for students in Scattergood and students at West Branch High. That would seem to be a fairly easy sort of thing to deal with and to try and establish. It's just one aspect of increasing public awareness. But if you're going to have more volunteers, public awareness is what you really need to have. And so maybe one of those actions would be worthwhile. See, I'm already expanding
Yeah.
3 things instead of 2, but I'm trying to look at some of the low-lying fruit.
Right.
Does anybody know, what is it coming up? Our 175th anniversary? How close
That's
is
what you
that?
got written here,
What is it,
1875.
2023, right?
23 already?
Well, it's 1851 is when the town started, so
Yeah.
you figure out the math.
When was the last time? What year was that last one?
2001.
It's 2023. We're
Yeah.
probably too late
1851 would have been Cameron.
on doing something.
Would have been what?
Cameron.
'Cause that's, whether it's a book or a story,
It was West
that's a 2-year process, so.
Well, a lot was put into
1851.
that book. that
It's when the
they-
town started.
And they won a prize for that even.
We weren't incorporated until
I think they started 2 or 3 years in advance.
yeah, but sure.
I'm just telling you, that's what it was, 1851, because 1951 was the 100th year. I got pictures, I got dresses.
Okay.
Hopefully it wasn't wrong.
No.
So we have to 2026.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that might be enough
So-
time, 4 years, 3.5.
Yeah, go to the museum and then celebrate 275 years.
Right.
So what year will it be?
2026.
Oh, okay.
26.
All right, well, if there's nothing else on the goals. We've kind of already touched a little bit on the CLG status updates.
So at our September meeting, we should see how things are going with that.
Do you want to send out the list of the action items that they gave to you when you submitted the application the first time? The stuff that we still need to take care of, like the additional properties and, or is that
You
someplace?
mean the letter that we got from,
Yeah,
yeah, I can do that.
and then we can take a look and see what still needs to be taken care of.
Because that was the biggest one, I think, was the inventory. We're already going to do the ordinance, so that's taken care of. I've already taken their skeleton draft. It's just adding our unique West Branch stuff in there. And then the 25% is, I challenge them to prove it. So,
Right.
are you really going to audit my time? So, or Jesse's time, and if Jesse's stuff counts, then that's us together. We can prove for sure we're doing 25%.
Arguably.
So,
Maybe some of the next time
Yeah,
get in here too.
for sure.
so
Maybe Melissa's if we start having tours and so forth. Cobble it together.
A while back, they even had part of that walking tour that was on that, you could carry it around and it even came downtown.
Right.
Was that on an app, or what was that?
No, it was a little,
Oh,
you
cool.
carried it, like a,
Doesn't NPS have like a walking tour, like on an app?
yeah.
They do.
yeah.
Check that out.
That'd be fun to have for the town.
Yeah.
Of all
Love
the,
to do
once
that
we,
for Main Street.
yeah,
Where you
once
can,
we
like,
get
hold it
the
up and
buildings
see what the
identified and
building looked
everything.
Like 100 years ago.
Oh, yeah.
It was fascinating cemetery information too.
Uh-huh, yeah.
Um,
People travel all over to look at cemeteries.
Like the one in the library.
What, the one?
The one at the library. The kids were playing all their stuff out there last
Oh,
week.
you mean up here?
Yeah, up here.
Well, that was all
That was the
desecrated.
gravestones.
That was all desecrated because the high school was right next door.
Oh,
And they were all knocked over and
wow.
that's why they put up that main one, which listed, and then that,
Try
I
to
think
preserve
there's
it,
a Civil War one there, and I don't, but,
so that,
you know, the
I
high
forget
school,
it's there
the
until.
high school, we had how many bond issues, and then it burned. That was an interesting situation.
Yeah, and I just saw the action steps here, so I think we're good. What do we got left here? Did we already, the Travelers Rest nomination updates?
We kind of covered that, but most of the consultants that I've been talking to are, I probably won't be able to get started on it until September. It's kind of been all of them saying that, so to say I can go any further until then is, yeah, and then it'll just be who to pick out of them. But I contacted, I don't know, I talked to the state as John asked me to, and I think 5 or 6 of the consultants responded, but they all had the same response that you're not gonna get my attention until probably September, so.
What type of consultants are those?
They would just be, they would have a background on writing historic preservation, or whatever, National Registry nominations.
It is a cottage industry.
Yeah, absolutely.
You generally have like a architectural background or historical library background, the 2 most common.
I'll look through my notes from the Main Street America conference. There was excellent breakouts about diversity and inclusion overlapped with historic preservation and how that's a huge lack in historic preservation traditionally, is that current items or properties on the historic registry, only 10% of them represent anything outside of the white experience. So there's a lot of organizations and consultant firms and grant opportunities tied directly to preserving Black history, so that maybe we could access some of that.
Well, that'd probably be our only tie-in
Yeah.
there, because I don't think
Right.
blacks were in this town until in the last 40 or 50 years probably.
It's interesting to think about how that piece of history is missing.
I think our tie-in's a pretty significant one, though. So,
Yeah,
I'll look for those leads.
you could do the Danish one.
No thanks.
So, yeah, no, I think we're there on the updates. It's, I guess, whether you guys have any last comments, concerns, or?
what's up?
I think we can adjourn.
Okay, do I just adjourn?
You just we have
They
to
can-
make a motion to
Yeah.
adjourn.
Okay, I'll make
So
a,
move.
make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Oh, yeah, sorry, all in favor.
Aye.
I'll get it. Do I hit the gavel again?
Yes, yes.
Little